Hey guys, it's Alejandro Kolleeny with another literary classic in 3 minutes. This week I'm doing A Tale of Two Cities. Okay, so the book begins with the reunion of Lucy Manette with her father, Dr. Manette, who's been wrongfully incarcerated in the Bastille for over a decade. Lucy and Dr. Manette return to England, and at this point the book leaps forward in time several years to the trial of a man named Charles Darnay. Darnay is being tried for the crime of treason, and the Manettes testify on his behalf with such passion and charisma that public opinion is completely swept in his favor and he is acquitted, because in the justice system, there is no more powerful weapon than the good speech. So everyone's just like, not guilty, that was a very good speech. And Charles Darnay goes out to a celebratory dinner with his lawyer, Sidney Carton, who is this cynical, depressive alcoholic. He doesn't care about anything. And as the reader, you tire of him very quickly. You don't understand why you have to pay so much attention to this guy. It doesn't seem like there's anything important about him until you learn that he bears an uncanny resemblance to Charles Darnay. And so at this point, you're like, oh, this guy's not a character, he's just a function of the plot. Fuck him even more. So Charles Darnay and Lucy Manette begin spending a lot of time together and they fall in love. And at this point, the book is very happy and bouncy, and everyone is running through a field or holding hands, and I don't think any of that actually happens, but it feels like it happens at this point. Like if this were a movie, there would just be a lazy montage of people falling in love right here. And Charles goes back to France, and it turns out his uncle is a marquis, an evil marquis, and Charles renounces the aristocracy and goes back to England and marries Lucy Manette, and now the two of them are so happy and they're recently married, and then suddenly shit goes crazy! People start getting their heads chopped off and shoved onto pikes, the streets run red with blood, everyone is dying, and you're like, what is going on? I thought this was a book about people getting married! I'm still not even sure what happens at this point in the book. I think it's the French Revolution. And Charles Darnay gets a letter from one of his uncle's servants saying that the man is being imprisoned for the crime of being the servant of a marquis, and Darnay goes to save him. Because in case you haven't noticed, Charles Darnay is a stand-up fucking guy. He's a great dude. He'll pick you up from the airport, he'll be your wingman at parties, he will go to France and try to get you out of prison. But unfortunately, as soon as he gets to France, the French people tell him that since the marquis is dead, he is now the marquis and thus deserves to die. They throw him in prison too. And now, Dr. and Lucy Manette have to go to France to save him, which seems like it's going to be a piece of cake because Dr. Manette is so revered in France for having been wrongfully imprisoned by the aristocracy. So he thinks he's just going to roll up, throw down an impassioned speech, and roll out. And, you know, things seem to be going well. He totally kills it on the speech front, and you're like, this is in the bag. When suddenly the prosecution produces a letter written 20 years ago when Dr. Manette was in prison, which contains an even more compelling speech in which Dr. Manette convinces everyone to kill the shit out of the aristocracy, and Charles Darnay is sentenced to die by guillotine. The public opinion is inflamed against him. It seems like nothing can save him, and then, out of nowhere, Sidney Carton, who has not been in the book for 200 pages, but of course was important, shows up. He's got a master plan and no one knows what it is. And of course the master plan is that he switches places with Charles Darnay. Anyone with half a brain could have figured out when the two of them looked similar that at one point they were going to have to switch places. Sidney Carton decides that his empty, alcoholic, depressive life is not as valuable as Darnay's productive, newly husbanded life, and he sacrifices himself. That's how the book ends. And you can feel however you want about that. But I also got to tell you that there are these characters in the book called the Defarges who I didn't mention, and I didn't mention them not because they're not important. They're very important. I just hate them so much. They're the guys who give the prosecution that letter, and they're a couple of fucking assholes. This is all your fault, Defarges. Fuck you. Thank you, guys.